We need the cheap energy. We have market prices of energy 3 times higher than the market prices when we had nuclear. 3 times higher.
This is Fissionary, a show exploring how nuclear powers your world. I'm Mary Carpenter.
And I'm Jordan Houghton. Let's jump in.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Mary. And hello, Fissionaries.
Hey, Fissionaries. Welcome back. As you know, this season we're exploring nuclear around the world, and we have a super interesting stop today because on this episode, we're headed to Germany.
Germany is one of the most interesting nuclear stories out there right now. The country shut down its final nuclear plants in 2023, but now rising energy costs, industrial pressure, and energy security concerns are changing the conversation.
So today we're asking what happens when a country closes its nuclear plants and then starts wondering, what if it was the wrong decision? So today we brought on Britta, who is the co-founder of Mothers for Nuclear Deutschland, and she really understands the political conversation around nuclear in Germany and public perception around nuclear in Germany, and it's a really interesting episode just to talk about this country that had nuclear, turned away from nuclear, and now is wondering, was that the wrong choice?
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Britta Augustin is a high school mathematics and computer science teacher and co-founder of Mothers for Nuclear Deutschland. Growing up in East Germany, her love of nature led her to think deeply about energy, climate, and the role nuclear can play. Today, she advocates for nuclear in Germany through public outreach, education, and grassroots organizing. Britta, welcome to Fissionary.
Hello. So great that you have me here.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. And can you start by sharing a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to nuclear?
I grew up in the eastern part of Germany, and we had quite a big Russian influence. We had nuclear seen as the technology of the future. I was interested in science fiction a lot, and you had these novels, science fiction novels, and nuclear was shown in a positive way, because when you have space travel and abundant energy for everyone, it goes well together with socialism. This idea of having abundant, huge amounts of energy, that everybody gets what it needs. Also, when I was a child, also Chernobyl happened, but we were not able to hear about it, because where I lived in the part of Eastern Germany, we had no access to Western media. So I learned about Chernobyl only after the reunion. I got to research it because it was so unbelievable, such a big accident, and I wanted to know what caused it. When I did my research about Chernobyl, I saw how big the differences were between the Western and Eastern nuclear power plants, and it drove me crazy. Like, everybody was like, oh, nuclear is dangerous. But I saw differences between the reactors and the safety culture and everything. In Western Germany, it was perfectly fine. This was an interesting gap.
When you learned about Chernobyl later, it didn't change your impression about nuclear?
No, because Chernobyl was fascinating, because an explosion, there has to be something big behind. Like, what has to happen to cause such a major accident, even if the accident was perceived even more dangerous as it actually was? With the knowledge at this time, it was possible to research the major differences between reactor types and between the whole thing around it, like safety culture and workforce education, and even the way to build the building. We had in Germany, we always had this very strong containment around our reactors, and Chernobyl just didn't have it. These little details you can easily research. So Chernobyl did not influence me in a negative way. Quite the other way around. It influenced me in a way that I saw our German nuclear power plants. I visited one after reunion, and it was completely clear this is another type of reactor, and the world learned from all the accidents, and the world learned from the German standards. So Germany played quite a role in safety for around the world for the nuclear power plants, and not only about safety, but also we had the highest efficiency of our power plants. Like little workforce to produce so much energy and still have the highest standards. But you could follow the media, and the media was not covering this. Still, to this day, our media is not covering the fact that Chernobyl and Fukushima could not have happened here in Germany. In 1986, when Chernobyl happened, that children were not allowed to go outside. They had to spend the whole summer inside. They ate out of metal cans. The sand and their playgrounds got changed. And they still believe to this day that this was justified. And despite this, we have a shift in the perception of nuclear. Despite this, because we are in so much economical trouble that people just don't care about this fears. They are somehow cannot touch the fear, but you can touch the fear of the prices rising.
So listeners of our podcast may only know Germany as a country that recently phased out nuclear. Tell our listeners, what is the conversation around nuclear there right now?
The conversation is triggered by two things. My organization, Nuclearia, was founded after Fukushima. Since then, the educated public brought bit by bit every fact which is right and contradict what is in the people's minds. So this is really a long-term effect we see here, that with our website, with our many events and social media now, we have an influence on this debate, because more and more people realize how much is the gap between the actual truth about nuclear and what is known. Other factor is we have an energy crisis since 2021. Even before the war, we had an energy crisis. So these two things play together. The energy crisis, which was already known in 2021, that this energy crisis can lead to an economic crisis. And this is what's unfolding now. The energy prices driving our industry out of the country since many years. Lower taxes, lower income for the state, and higher prices due to the energy prices. And this is now affecting everybody. So everybody is coming to the real problems. And the real problems now, are economical problems. People feel it in everyday life. You cannot afford holidays. Even driving is expensive. You cannot afford to go out for eating, and so on and so on. And this makes irrational fears like obsolete. Also, journalists followed our argumentation that with cheap energy, we can improve our economy. And that's why the discourse is changing, not by educating the people, not by learning about, nuclear is actually green and stuff. No, by just the sheer necessity. We need this energy. There is no country in the world with low energy production and a high standard of living. This argument is coming through in the moment. We need the cheap energy. We have market prices of energy 3 times higher than the market prices when we had nuclear. 3 times higher. And this is driving not only the industry out of the country, it is also forcing companies to close and even the whole middle of the economy to give in. We have a big decline in economy.
Britta, do you think there's regret about this phase out then with all of the negative impacts you've just walked us through?
There is a deep regret, because a lot of people, you don't hear from these people in the media, but a lot of people experience it firsthand. You have the communities who lived around the power plants where they paid taxes, really huge amounts of taxes. So these communities around, the villages around the nuclear power plant, they could afford everything, the biggest and nicest playgrounds for the children and the nicest streets and community buildings and everything. People were content and happy. Their good paying jobs are gone. The taxes are gone. And all the workers from the nuclear power plants and all the supply chain workers and everything, everybody made profit out of it. So they are beyond regret. They are in total anger. But of course, also politicians like our chancellor or other high-ranking politicians of government of our parties, also from European Union, We have a German chancellor in European Union, and she said the same what our chancellor said early this year. It was a major mistake. And you have quotes like this all over the media that a lot of people say, this is not regret, this is more than a regret. We made a big mistake. And our organization is now trying to add to the discourse. So, no problem. We have to put a lot of work in, but we can phase in again. There are many people willing to work for the phase in. We can build them back. This is a part of the discourse which is blocked because we have a difficult political situation. So everybody knows it has to happen. Something has to happen. We need a growing economy.
So you're seeing more and more politicians be favorable for nuclear, right?
Yes. Actually, yes. More and more politicians speak out, and also journalists speak out, people from the economy speak out, more and more people. This is a development since many years. In Nuclearia is beyond politics. We want to show everybody that nuclear is fine. So this is well known, but still in public media, they show us our action, and we appear nice, and we say nice things, and we get our statements broadcasted. But then somebody comes and says, no, it's just too slow and too expensive. But that's not true, and that's why we publish a report now to show when and with which money, to what costs we can bring back our existing power plants. So this is the report we will publish soon to show, no, it's not expensive and it's not too slow when we build them back.
Britta, tell us more about Mothers for Nuclear Deutschland. How did you bring this organization to light? And tell us more about, you mentioned this paper that you're working on. What else is the organization focused on right now?
Mothers for Nuclear is just a part. We have a little movement of nuclear organizations in Germany. I'm working now for Nuclearia, but within Nuclearia, at the Nuclearia demonstrations from 2020, we met up with other mothers. We met at the actual events of Nuclearia, demonstrations at the power plants, and we had the feeling we want to have an own sub organization within the movement to work with females. The nuclear movement is dominated by men, or was dominated by men, of course, and so we felt we need our own base. And then we discovered we are also mothers. You want to build a better world for your kids. And we felt like this could add to the discourse another voice to the chorus. We care for nuclear because we care for everybody. This makes it very quick to persuade people to be in favor of nuclear. We go to the streets with our t-shirts, and we are pink, we are colorful, we are caring. And this can really make a difference in the discourse. With our social media outreach, we never made it to the politicians. We made it to the media. They were interested. We spoke also with politicians, but we are quite more successful with Nuclearia in this matter. When we talk with politicians, what they want is more is another approach. They don't want the emotions, they want the facts. So, and this is why I guess Mothers for Nuclear is working in public perception very well, but in policy making, we work with Nuclearia because Nuclearia last year made a conference where we were able to also include the nuclear industry and the advocacy, bring it kind of together. Like, it is important that advocates tell the same things and we get backed up by the actual industry. Because when we say we can bring the power plants back in a few years, we need something from the actual industry to say, okay, that's true.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you work with young people with Mothers for Nuclear, but also obviously you're a teacher, and you've talked a lot about public perception. What are you seeing in the terms of public perception for nuclear from the youth in Germany? Do they have fears? Are they pretty pro-nuclear? What's the sense you get from younger Germans?
That's very interesting because they are very fascinated also by the topic, because they sense that this is a very controversial topic for them, because they know also cultural background from their parents. They know something is not in harmony you have this older generation opposing nuclear, and the whole world around is building nuclear and speaking about nuclear. And this is a contradiction. Young people are very fascinated by this contradiction because they don't feel fear. They are just open to learn about it. And that's a nice thing. They are totally open. You can work with this.
That seems like that would be helpful to have their support, like, because these people are going to age. They're going to grow up. They're going to end up in positions of power. So I'm curious what you think. If Germany seriously wants to reverse course on this, what are the immediate steps that need to happen?
The legal situation is like this. It's forbidden to produce electricity and sell it with nuclear power. So you need a legalization. You need to legalize nuclear because all the rules are still in place. You have the allowances to run these places is still working because they need this to make the decommissioning process. So you just need to legalize it. You need to write in the law. It's not only allowed to produce energy with nuclear and to sell it. You need to invest some billions in total for all the plants, and you need to get the money back from the investment. So you need an allowance to run nuclear power plants for at minimum 20 years. And this has to be written in the law. And this would be all it takes. We have the insurance, we have the money for the deposit, we have the supply chains, we have the companies, we even still have the workforce. They are exporting. We have nuclear companies in Germany exporting to other countries, like parts for nuclear power plants. So they could be the supply chain for our German nuclear power plants. They're just waiting for the law to change. With Nuclearia, we publish the report to have in detail every problem is solved. We show in our report every technical detail, what has to happen in a technical way, in a legal way. What's with the workforce? What's with everything? When we publish this report, we can show everybody it's possible. And then we just need the media to cover it and politicians to read it. This is already happening. The politicians are very interested in it. But we show everybody who wants to know it's totally fine, it's totally possible to bring the nuclear power plants back.
Where can our listeners find the report if they want to look at it?
We will have it on our website. It's a report. We are doing it together with an American organization. The report itself is published by an American organization, so you can find it at Radiant Energy and on Nuclearia website and socials when we publish it soon.
I'm curious if you think the growing momentum for nuclear across Europe is having any influence on the conversation inside Germany.
Yeah, this is fascinating because the Germans feel quite comfortable to have a different opinion. Of course, people perceive it's around us, but they are in disbelief. You have such a strong opposition in the heads of certain people that they just don't believe it, what's happening in Europe. You have this nuclear alliance who promised to triple the nuclear capacity all over the world. And you have, it's not only Europe. Every country with a really growing economy and a big economy is grounded by nuclear energy. That's why you have so many people in the surveys in favor of nuclear, because they see, yeah, everybody around us is using nuclear. This normalized this whole nuclear thing. Germans can be very stubborn. We don't need nuclear. We have something better. But we are at the point, solar is not adding up anymore because we have too much solar. And people learn the hard way that this system with solar and wind and storage and everything makes energy not only expensive by now, but even more expensive in the next years because the system costs are rising exponentially. We are already at the ceiling what solar can deliver. We have too much of it now in the summertime and need to get rid of it. It is also expensive and we need to have this storages. And Germany is already at a point where we cannot afford it anymore. It's billions per year what we pay on subsidies for solar and wind, 18 billions per year. And the system costs are at like 20 billions a year, rising.
Sounds like there's a long road to go, but it does seem like some politicians and the larger public is favorable for nuclear and things are changing.
Really, what I said now about the numbers, it's not communicated clear enough still. And if politicians communicate it, they get attacked. But this is the first time this year that the German public got to know these numbers at all, like the system costs of our Energiewende. So this is a slow process. People need to process this information. That is why the progress is so slow. But our economy is rapidly declining, and that is our chance to bring back the nuclear power plants, because this process maybe gets accelerated by the economy situation, because people losing their jobs. That's where people really think quickly and process such informations more quickly. So there's this chance we have to bring back the nuclear power plants, because still we have some substance like to build on to really make a difference for our economy now. So we hope we can make it.
We hope so too, and we're glad you're on the case.
Thank you.
Last question for you. What's your favorite place you've traveled to and why?
Oh, okay. We were in France for holidays. I love France. We travel by the nuclear power plants, of course, but there is the ocean, and there are also nuclear power plants at the ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean is just great. I love it. I love it. I love the water, the movement, the waves. For me, it's good to know that they have such a big amount of energy by nuclear power plants. So I like to travel these countries, not only France, also Czech, in the future also Poland. I really like the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, because I'm a good swimmer and I like to move, and it's so calming.
You're going to have to come out at some point and see Diablo Canyon, because that is a nuclear power plant on the ocean. You can combine all of your loves in one visit.
Someday we were chilling together at the ocean, celebrate our wins.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This was super interesting. It's so much going on in your country, so thanks for giving us a little perspective into it.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, this is a great episode, really interesting, incredibly complex situation in Germany. It sounds like, thanks to the work of people like Britta, they are slowly but surely moving back into the right direction to help secure their energy future.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear from her kind of the misconceptions people have and how common misconceptions are fed to the public. But it sounds like there's a lot of work going on to change misconceptions, and public opinion is actually changing. So that's exciting. A lot of interesting information from Britta, but a lot of exciting stuff coming out from Germany, it seems like.
Yeah, hopefully more good news to come. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Fissionary on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And while you're at it, please leave us a rating or review. It helps others discover the show.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Fissionary in a new country.